Thank you, Mrs. Shope. It is 6:06. I am calling to order the special board meeting of the preliminary budget. Mrs. Shope, may we get a roll call, please?
Yes. Amy Levy? Here. Tom Hankins cannot be with us this evening. Brian Nichols?
Here.
Megan Miller? Present. Joanne Rue? Here. Juan Romero?
Here.
And Tia Johnson.
Here.
All members are present except Tom Hankins.
Thank you. May I get an approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Brian Nichols, seconded by Amy Levy. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our first item tonight, our only item tonight, is the 2025 preliminary budget review and approval. Dr. Garrison and Mrs. Elwood.
All right, well, so thank you, Board President Johnson and members of the board. So this is one of those things that we have to do every year for more of a procedural opportunity, but we have to have our preliminary budget that has been presented once before, actually 2 times now, in regular settings as pertains to our budget for the upcoming school year. One of the things that I want to say, like I shared yesterday with the committee, was there's a lot of work that there's been a lot of work that we've put into this overall conversation over the year. I'd like to thank the business office for everything that's happened in that space. Ms. Elwood, thank you for the assistance that you provided the school district of Beloit and myself, and of course the team as well. Naturally, the cabinet has also played a heavy part in this conversation, and when we're thinking about budgets, there's a lot of different opportunities that we have, and everyone plays a heavy part of it. And then, of course, to the board, naturally, you have set out to have balanced budgets each year since I've arrived, and here's another space in which we have been able to kind of cross the line, and not necessarily cross the line because there's still some things we got to get taken care of in this space. But overall, I believe we've presented a very strong budget that we believe we've done a lot of work in. To the school district overall, naturally, there's also a lot of people that works not just in front of the scenes, also behind the scenes, but also in the classrooms and people out throughout the school district. And so, again, I know this has been a hard go at budgets and budget conversations here in the school district, but I want to make sure everyone knows that it is our goal to get this right. And by getting it right, that means that we need everybody to be moving in the same direction and moving together. And so with that being stated, this preliminary budget is kind of what we have here. I will kick us off and just kind of go over some just generalities with the conversation. One being that there is a budget summary page that we've provided the full board this information, and the goal here is to look at the total revenues being 107 million, and then your total expenses equaling that out, and that brings you to that balanced budget conversation. The 2 main funds that we use in this space is our Fund 10 and our Special Education Fund, Fund 27. Those funds pretty much drive a lot of budgetary operations, and so that's why you see those 2 being represented here. The key budgetary factors that you've seen, and this has been an ongoing conversation. I think one of the things that we've done a real good job at is reminding the board of our declining membership over a 3 years time frame. And every year, this conversation looks a little different for us. I will say, after the 3rd year, one of those years drops off, right? And so my hopes is that we have another strong year of membership. When I say strong year, something that keeps us above that 5,000 number or right around that 5,000 number. That's been a number that I've been sharing. Excuse me. That's been a number that I've been sharing since my arrival, that we kind of need to float around that number to keep everything kind of, moving in the direction that I think we need to go based off of our budget. Naturally, there's a state general aid currently reflects estimated aid amounts of about $62 million. Naturally, other key budgetary factors in this conversation is that we are looking to have a salary increase of 1.5 pending negotiations with the BEA. That is definitely underway still. The employee monthly health insurance contribution, which remains to be at 4%, that's another big I'd say cost that we have in this budget as well. Our hopes is also that we look at all of our budget and look at different ways in which we can not necessarily have to impact the classroom, right? And so when you look at the overall budget, and you'll see a lot of different moving pieces, our goal is still to do as much as we can not to impact the classroom. And so we had to expense increase in utilities and transportation, and of course there's been reductions in our staffing and contracted services. The next slide, we've presented this slide to you all. This is a slide that we shared back in June 30th. Yes, there's still moving pieces.
Dr. Garrett, I'm sorry for
Sure.
interrupting. Do you want questions now or at the end?
We can take questions as we go.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you for asking the question.
So back to the key budgetary factors.
Sure.
The expenses for charter school and local private vouchers estimated at 236. Is that a gross number or a net number after revenues to cover some of that?
That's the increase from last year to this year.
Okay.
An increase, yes.
Okay.
Last year to this year.
Okay.
And feel free just to let me know if you have any questions, if that's okay. Board President Johnson, we can just pause and answer questions. All right, cool.
Oh, I just wanted to clarify, just on the previous slide for key budgetary factors, the salary increase of 1.5 pending negotiations with the BA, that's the placeholder amount right now?
Correct, that's the amount that the board has discussed
So far.
in public and approved,
Yep.
yes.
I just wanted to clarify that in case anybody was confused, so, thank you.
All right, and so as we continue with the conversation, the budget reductions, this slide is, again, a repeated slide that we've shown as it pertains to just some of the things that we've had to do to get to this space here in the budget. Naturally, you see that $3.3 million number at the bottom. I'm not going to go through each of those positions, and we know that when you see those positions leave the district for whatever reasons, naturally that's a person or a position that we've had to reduce, and the work that all of these positions come with, of course, is shifted throughout our district. And so, again, it's definitely a heavy load that we have to lift here in the school district. The next slide, we have the other budget adjustments that we've had to make. Naturally, we've had the conversation and still working through the conversation as it pertains to assistant principals to deans. Of course, we also had to do some reclassification of our director of facilities position, projected increase of about $79,000 there. Budget reductions, one of the key places here is that, when you're looking at budget, savings across the school district, you're looking at a lot of different areas, and one of the spaces have been in our cleaning services, our technology services, and of course, we've also had to use some of the OPEB fund. Now, I want to just make this note now, and Mrs. Elwood will bring this up as well. In our previous budget, we had earmarked about $2 million in our OPEB funds. I'm proud to say that we didn't have to use those $2 million in this conversation. And so, again, Mrs. Elwood is going to touch on a little bit of that in this conversation. And so I'd like to thank the board for allowing us to look at that and use that conversation to get to where we needed to get to last year. But as I hate to say promise, but one of the things I really wanted to do is not have to use those funds if we didn't have to, and that's kind of where we are right now. Later in the presentation, just to let you all know, we are faring on the positive side. You can go to the next slide. Thank you. We are faring on the positive side for this school year, coming in at a little over $500,000. But again, Mrs. Elwood will share some of that information with you all as well. So the board has some extra little money to move and to decide how we want to use those funds in the upcoming budget conversation. Additional budget adjustments that we've had to make, and again, I'm not going to go through all of those spaces, but of course there's open enrollment out, there's open enrollment in, and then there's special education reimbursement. Yesterday, one of the key points that I made in the special education reimbursement space is that 33 to 39% is the additional revenue that we will receive for this year. That is a total of $836,000 and $836 $224 total. And that number could change after, the next year. But right now, we can count on $836,000. I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Elwood now, and she's going to take us through the rest of the presentation, and I'll jump in as needed. But Mrs. Elwood, thank you so much.
Yep, thank you, Dr. Garrison. So this slide is the history of our revenue limit membership. So this is year over year. So for our membership number that we use for the revenue limit, it's the last 3 years that we use for that number. It's an average. We are estimating that number to be low, just to be conservative in our budgeting for the start of the year. We will have definitive numbers after our third Friday count in September, but we don't have those yet. So this next slide is how that revenue limit is calculated, taking that 3-year average resident membership times the per pupil amount of that $11,655.27 per pupil, and then the one-time non-reoccurring exemptions are figured in there, giving our revenue limit authority of about $74,988,786. And that revenue limit authority is, like I said, because it will change in October depending on what our enrollment ends up being. This next slide is how that revenue limit comes into a play with the tax levy and the state equalization aid. So the revenue limit is made up of those two pieces, and that's how we come up with our tax levy for the year. And again, these numbers are not definitive. They will adjust in October depending on what the enrollment ends up being. This next slide here is just a new slide that we added in. It's just a kind of a comparison of a few different districts across the state and a visualization of that revenue limit and how that got set back in '93, and how some school districts favored very well and some school districts are, pretty close to each other, but some are definitely much higher than Beloit. This next slide is the budget by source code for revenues. As Dr. Garrison was saying before, the total between general fund and special education fund for a total of $107,415,303. And to note on here that the majority of our revenues for the districts are coming from state sources at almost 78%.
Mrs. Elwood, do you mind going back to that slide real quick, the revenue source? We typically don't touch the tax levy space. Do you mind touching on what that means in this slide for us, please?
Yep, so maybe I should go back one more here, or a couple here, the tax levy space. So the tax levy gets set in October, but there are other factors that go into setting the tax levy. So the amount of the tax levy on this slide, the $11,426,227 for general fund, is a pretty good estimate, but at this point in time, it is just an estimate. The other two pieces of the tax levy are the debt levy. The debt levy is a definitive number because we know what our debt payments are at the $963,629. And the community service fund tax levy, we have it set at $350 currently because that is what we had planned on doing for 24-25. And for 25-26, I think that that's a good estimate for the tax levy for community service at this point. This slide is the general fund revenues by source, showing again the largest portion of our revenue is coming from the state. And for special education, the largest portion of the revenue is coming from that transfer from 10 to 27, and then state sources and federal sources. Expenditures by object codes. So object codes are the different pieces that we're spending money on, whether it's salaries and benefits, which of course make up the majority of our budget at just over 58%. The next largest section there is purchase services, which makes up all of our transportation, utilities, contracted services, those types of things. And again, showing that this is a balanced budget with a total of $107,415,303. This next slide is just another visualization of the budget by function. Functions are departments such as instruction or insurances. On this slide, maybe to note, a large portion of our budget is instruction, with the next section coming in as facilities, transportation, and business services, which also includes all the utilities in that section and bus transportation. And this slide shows the large portion of instruction. This next slide is a visualization of the FTEs of full-time staff in the district. Pulling out that administrator's number, somebody asked me at the last meeting how many principals and school administrators were in this and where they showed up on here. So where it says 17 administrators under administration, 16 of those are school building staff. So out of the 27, 16 the administrators are school building administrators. And the largest portion of our FTE, obviously, is teachers and paras. This next slide is the unassigned fund balance analysis. As Dr. Garrison was saying earlier, we have presented June numbers at our last committee meeting. The numbers are not audited yet, but we are coming out as a surplus of about $500,000. I did not put that on the slide because we didn't have those numbers before we created this slide tonight. So when we move to doing final numbers, they will be on the next slide. This slide is all the other funds. So General Fund, Fund 10, and Special Education Fund 27 make up the majority of our funds. However, we do have all these other funds, special projects, debt service, capital projects, food services, the OPEB trust, which note on here that the beginning balance is the same as it would have been last fiscal year because we did not use any of those funds for 24-25. And the Community Service Fund, the revenues here are the $350,000 for the tax levy, and $500 is a little bit of interest and maybe some other fees. The expenses, we are asking for an increase slightly in the Community Service Fund, and I do have a couple of slides showing that request. This slide is an overview of what community services is for. Community Service Fund can be used for things outside of the tax levy and outside of the school district normal activities for things that the communities would be involved with, such as pool use and uses of the gyms and rentals of some of the facilities. So this slide here lists the things that we are currently using Fund 80 for. The Even Start program, I think this is the third year for the Even Start program. The school resource officers, this would be year number 2 for that. And police security at Beloit Memorial events, this would be year number 2 also. Some of the proposed uses, though, I'm going to turn that over to Dr. Garrison, and he's going to go through some of the community use.
Sure. If you could do me a real quick favor and just jump right back 2 slides one more time to the other funds slide. Just to touch base on that real quick, one of the things that we want the public to know, and of course the board to know as well, is that, naturally we talk about Fund 10 and 27 a lot, but these other funds, if you ever get a chance to come to the Business Operation and Finance Committee meeting, you will hear a lot about these other funds. I just want to put it out there. I know we're not necessarily going to delve deep into each of those funds, but we do a lot of that conversation in our monthly financials conversation. And so these other funds are funds that we have to, of course, explore and look at, and naturally possibly seek ways to, not necessarily save money, but work to see ways and how we can do things differently as the funds are available to us, whether it be debt services and Fund 38 and 39. I know when people see that, you see debt services 38 and 39. So, Mrs. Elwood, can you give us a real brief snapshot around the difference between Fund 38 and Fund 39?
Yep, Fund 38 and 39 is our referendum debt and non-referendum debt. So non-referendum debt is debt that was taken out that the public didn't vote on, and the referendum debt was debt that the public voted on. So one of those debt issuances was for building of this building, and I think that then there was some environmental type projects that were done, and those we are getting rebates from the federal government on. So the interest on those loans is basically forgiven. We get a tax rebate on those. But like Dr. Garrison said, we do presentations on debt and have some more in-depth presentations that we have done in the past, and we can do another one again.
One of the things that Board Chair Hankins asked us to do when he took over was to have that debt services conversation. And Mr. Nichols, if you can remember back in, I want to say in June-ish, maybe we did that conversation, where we looked at all of our debt and had a deeper conversation around what that actually looks like. Fund 50 is a food services fund. Do you mind just giving the public just a real quick snapshot of what that looks like from a food services perspective, please? Yep.
So our food services department is serving children breakfast and lunch, but then we also do summer food service and I believe evening snacks at some of the schools. It is a large program. We have a lot of activity going on with that. All of our children in the city of Beloit, the school district of Beloit, are served meals at no cost to them, so every child is able to eat.
I know at the bottom down there, some people see that cooperative program fund 99, and then you see 0 and 0. Can you please provide us with just a snapshot of what that means, please?
Yep, the cooperative program fund 99 is used to account for our cooperative program for our hockey programs. Previous year we had girls and boys hockey running through there. This next year it will only be boys hockey, but that's a cooperative program with other school districts in the area, so we have players from different school districts all participate together with one team.
And so now we can jump back over to that community service proposal space. Oh, sure, go ahead.
No, you're fine. Hi, thank you so much. No, this is awesome. I just wanted to tack on a couple of things just to clarify for the benefit of everybody's understanding. So please, if I'm wrong on this, let me know. So with Fund 50, I know that in past years, like, that's caused some confusion for people. So those are federal dollars that are use it or lose it. Is that right still?
That's correct. So when I talk about the food service program and every child eating at no charge, it still costs money to support that cost. So the federal government, it highly aids us to provide those meals to the children, yes.
I appreciate that. And is it still true, because I know this is, like during COVID, this was a thing, and I think it's still the same, but like over the summer, like when we do the summer meals program, like even if students aren't enrolled in the school district of Beloit, if they live within the boundaries of the school district of Beloit, they're still eligible?
I don't believe that they ask the children when they show up at, say, the library site or one of the other sites to get a meal. They don't ask them for ID or anything. They're just serving the kids that show up.
And I just wanted to like point that out too, because I think that's probably underutilized by our community, and it's just a good thing to know that that's a resource that we can provide back to. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And correct me if I'm wrong, that's funded through the U.S. Department of Agriculture, correct?
Yes, that is correct. It's mostly funded by the federal government through the USDA, and then the rest of it, a small portion of it comes through the state.
Okay. Thank you.
And so now that we come back to this slide again, the community services proposal, and one of the things that, as we already talked about, was the Even Star School Resource Officer and the Police Security President at BMHS, but there's been some other things that have been under our development over this past year, was just the community use of our pool at BMHS. I believe when the pool was built, of course, years ago, one of the big things was that we wanted it to feel like a community pool, and for whatever reason, that wasn't in play, and now this year we really want to make that happen, and so that's something that we're going to be moving forward with. Community use of our weight room, that's the way it was pitched, as I understand it. So listening to the community, we want to get that back as well. The community use of our fields and school gyms, let me just say this, our facilities are used a lot by our community for various different opportunities that supports our community's health. And so, shameless plug, Community Health Fair is this Saturday. Please feel free to come. But we do use our school facilities for a lot of different reasons, and we definitely want to make sure that this is something that we can continue. Community programs such as our summer engagement activities, when I brought this to the conversation 2.5 years ago, one of the things is I really wanted our community just to see us, see the schools, be a part of what we're doing. And so I did ask all of our schools to have 3 summer engagement opportunities, summer engagement activities. And when I first took this on 2.5 years ago, I didn't really roll that into the community service fund. I just wanted to see how it would take off. And it has taken off. For what it's worth, our schools are definitely open throughout the summer, and our opportunities with the summer engagement activities it's almost like an annual thing now. And so I'm real proud to say that those summer engagement activities over the past 3 years one could argue, has given us over 30 a year. And so that's over 90 different opportunities with the community that we've had to connect, not just during the school year, but during a real critical time during the summertime where families just can come see the schools and be a part of what we're doing. And so that summer engagement activity is something I think is very important for the community to note. Some of the additional actions that will happen here over the course of October, please note that this budget just is a budget that we have to approve to say, let's keep going, right? If there's a better way for me to explain it, I would say it differently. And so one of the things that I share with other administrators is that this budget is to give us the permission to keep going. And so we have to, of course, finalize revenues and expenses. Of course, we've talked about our membership, possible staffing changes, final grant awards, additional state awards not yet to be determined. We want to refine our personnel costs, update our staffing and staffing changes, review and address vacant positions, which is an ongoing conversation for us. And yes, we do have vacancies right now. I want to make sure that's definitely noted. Some of the positions we know we will fill, and some of the positions we are, it's going to be hard to fill space. One of the things that we've been, and I'm just going to be honest with you, one of the things that we've been kind of working real hard to figure out with the new legislation is our DLI program. And ever since the state changed, I want to go on record in saying this too, because I never necessarily did. Ever since the state changed some of their requirements in this space, that has hurt the School District of Beloit in recruiting people to help us in this space. For various reasons, the state makes decisions and DPI makes decisions, and we have to, of course, abide by them. But that change definitely impacted some of the DLI space here in our school district. And unfortunately, that means that since we rely heavily on our DLI programming and for various different opportunities, if we don't have the teachers to do that, we have to then think we have to remove them back into our regular ed classrooms and provide different services for them from an ELL space. I believe our DLI program is a great program for the School District of Beloit. It's been a mainstay for many years, but with these changes, there will be additional conversations that, as a board and, of course, as a community, we will have to tackle with the reductions in this space, not because we don't want it, but because of the state requirements that we now have to follow. And so the timeline is here for you to kind of peruse and look at. Again, most of this information the board definitely knows. I've, been very, diligent in making sure that people know the process in this space. Of course, we're here right now in August, September 2nd. New information has to be produced September 3rd. Of course, third Friday count, not September 3rd. In September, there's a third Friday count. My apologies there. September 17th, of course, our annual budget hearing. That's when we just have a hearing with the public.
Correct. We present this information again. So the information will be published in the newspaper on September 2nd for the hearing on September 17th. There is no vote on September 17th. The vote is tonight.
That's correct. October 1st is the Department of Revenue certifies equalization property values. October 15th, of course, as you can see it here, lays out some more opportunities for us. Later in October, there's some more opportunities for us. Late October, there's some more opportunities for us. So October is a very busy month for the school district of Beloit and school districts across the state of Wisconsin because how we lay out this timeline. And then naturally, if there's not any other spaces with the timeline, our final slide is, do you have any questions?
Any questions or comments from the board members? Go ahead, Mr. Romero.
So this is just a preliminary, right? Or are we going to revisit this? When was it again? I'm sorry, I missed that part.
Yep, so the purple highlighted items are the budget, or are the board meetings. So the late October board meeting is when we finalize the budget and set the tax levy.
Okay, so for the Fund 80, are we utilizing that correctly in terms of the SROs with the MSO that they currently have? I mean, just from my understanding of that, I mean, Fund 80 is supposed to be for the community things that the community uses. So, for example, if the SROs are going to the football games for security, I guess that would be covered. But anything that originates in on the campuses and all that during the school hours, that's not necessarily something the community has access to. So would it be?
So if I could just step in, if you don't mind. So SROs are not used for security. That is part of our contract. They are a liaison between the police department and the schools. And they are also utilized by the community. They are not solely just in the schools. They are wherever they are needed. And because of that caveat, we can put them in Fund 80 as a community service. And they are available to students after hours as well. They can do that liaison part with students if the students need them.
Any other questions? Mrs. Levy?
Thank you. So just broadly, first of all, thank you to Dr. Garrison and the team for putting all this together. The walkthrough of the slides is really helpful. I particularly appreciate the timeline so we can know what to expect and kind of govern our calendars accordingly. Should we also expect to hear more specific areas where additional reductions can be made, hopefully with the least impact on classrooms? And I know that's challenging, but my expectation is that we will continue to see those. Is that accurate?
So naturally, as we start working through the budget and getting more information, we'll start looking at what our deficit will look like in the next budget, right? And so when we start getting those numbers, then that's another set of conversations that will be produced that we'll have to kind of start looking at. I can share this with you, Mrs. Levy. One of the things that we know is that when there's not having a referendum in place, there's year-over-year costs that, and I sound like a broken record here, but there's year-over-year costs that we have to pay for, and so we will have another layer of conversations minus a referendum here in our school district. And so, yes, you will see more conversations coming. But as our budget is produced and we get more information around what our debt will look like, we'll be able to tackle some of those conversations in the future.
And then just to add on to that, my hope is that we will see that early and regularly so that as the board, we can give guidance to our priorities, like what to protect, what we're comfortable moving forward with, so we don't have any surprises in late October. That is what I would hope to avoid. So thank you so much for that.
Any other questions? Ms. Miller?
Thank you so much. Yeah, just a couple quick clarifications. I think Mr. Romero just brought up something that I know a lot of community members have been concerned about, and I think there is and understandably so, like a lot of confusion about Fund 80 because, you know, if you read the stuff on the DPI page, like that doesn't necessarily cover, right, all of the nuances of how it actually plays out, right? So I'm just wondering, I don't want to put you on the spot right now, but since he asked the question, maybe maybe for the 17th, and I'm a little fuzzy because I haven't like looked at the contract lately. I want to say, in addition to what you described, there may have, and again, I could be remembering this wrong, I think they may have like utilized that also as an opportunity to get like training for the entire department. I think that was beneficial because of like the training that they go through to like work with students. And maybe I'm using teacher talk. My understanding of it was that it was sort of like almost like a trauma-informed type thing. I don't know what the correct terminology is. I just think it might be helpful to build community understanding, just to kind of take a look and just maybe it would be good to delineate, like, here, like, are examples of, like, how this is a community thing, how it, like, fits under Fund 80, because I think it's part of our job as a board, too, to, like, make those connections for the community, and it would just be nice if everybody could feel good and find some, like, mutual understanding around that topic so it doesn't continue to be kind of contentious. So those are just a couple of thoughts I had, and, you know, there might not be those things that were in the contract. I could totally be, like, remembering this wrong, but I do remember there was a robust discussion way back, I don't remember what year that was, like a while ago, before this last, like the last renewal before the previous, like the one that we just did, where they talked a lot about like these trainings. So that might have been something that...
No, you're not incorrect.
Oh.
There is a training, discussion of training and how that happens with the SROs, because there is a specialized training that happens, yes.
Yeah, and I just remember, like, because I talked to Chief Sales, like, over the years before he, you know, obviously left, but, you know, I think he had previously expressed, like, some gratitude to the district, because I think that because of that partnership, I think may have opened up some opportunities for the entire police department, but it would just be great to get some details on that if we're able to, but, like, no pressure if that's, like, digging back too far. So I just wanted to kind of bring that up, because I think that, you know, Mr. Romero brings up an important point, because people just don't necessarily see that perspective that you shared that we're able to use. A couple other things I just wanted to bring up too. I was curious, with Fund 80, and I know this is not something that we're going to be like working on this fiscal year, but I know that one popular use of Fund 80 has to do with childcare, and I know that Drew Pennington has done a phenomenal job like working toward that. And it's slow work, and you know, it's a lot of challenges that exist in childcare. You know, it's a childcare desert, you know, through most of the state. So I just wanted to like kind of flag that as like, just for my colleagues on the board, it's a good opportunity to bring up that there's perhaps future additional methods of partnership, like with the city. And then a question that I had is kind of dovetailing off of that. Would transportation, like if there were future collaboration opportunities between the school district and the city to sort of like supplement or expand or reconceptualize transportation, is there any possibility, and we don't need to answer this for today, like so for a future presentation or maybe just to have out there, like for any kind of Fund 80 support for such a partnership? And like, again, this is just like notes for later when it becomes relevant. I know transportation becomes a huge expense, and it's just been difficult over the years to try to like mitigate that, because of course we need to get our kids safely to and from school. So those are just kind of like my initial thoughts and questions, like kind of like more for later. So thanks for listening.
Any other board member questions? Question I have then with since we're using Fund 80 for the SROs, and I don't know what the staffing of the police department is at this moment, but is it possible to expand the SRO program if we're using Fund 80?
I think that's a discussion that we have to have if we need an expansion. We were looking at the contract earlier, and I believe that there's currently three that they're providing, and I think that would be a further discussion with Cabinet.
No, great question, Board President Johnson. Naturally, with three right now, I think it's about $250,000 or so for the three, and you know, let's just use that number as a space. Another three will cost us about the community and the levy space about another $500,000. And so, if that's something that hasn't been asked of me, and so if we were to explore that, naturally I would have to, of course, go and have additional conversations with the chief and kind of go from there.
If there aren't any more questions or any further discussions, I would entertain a motion. The recommended action is move approval of the 2025-2026 preliminary budget as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Brian Nichols, seconded by Megan Miller. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries 5-1. I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Amy Levy, seconded by Brian Nichols. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. Motion carries unanimously. We are adjourned at 6:47. Have a good night.
Thank you, Dr. Garrison and Mrs. Elwood. Thank you.